So there's a few guys that are going to be competing in spring training for that Yankees starting shortstop position. Anthony Volpe, Oswald Peraza, and IKF will all be competing for that shortstop spot. So, Dan, I guess we'll say, without factoring in any personal preference here, who do you truly believe is going to be the guy on opening day?
Oh, yeah. So let's get serious here. This is a very important conversation because we really don't know. Now, if there's one guy I'll trust in regards to what will actually happen with the Yankees, and I think we can both agree on this, Jack Curry. He's very connected to what's like legitimately going on. He seems to have like the most reliable sources in organization. He said that the shortstop position is Oswald Peraza's to lose. And I feel like I may have put like the wrong vibe out there a little bit with how excited I am over Anthony Volpe because he's my guy. I think he's the everyday shortstop by Memorial Day or like June at the latest, right? But I think it'll be Peraza, and that's not a bad thing. June 1st on last year at AAA, like he was conquering it, dude. 291, 14 homers, 131 OPS plus. And dude, I think I always forget too. Granted, it was only 18 games. He was legitimately good with us in the regular season for like the 2 weeks that he was there.
Yeah.
Also, playoffs looked more than fine. And obviously, the defense is better than IKF. So I think you're looking at Peraza opening day, Volpe by Memorial Day. And then IKF, you're going to pay $6 million for him to be backup infielder. That's my take. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the take. However, I mean, you look at IKF, and I think he's the definition of a stopgap, right? I think that that's what they kind of went into 2022 with the idea of, and I think it was a little bit too early to go with the stopgap. But I think if you were going to go with the stopgap shortstop, I think now's the perfect time to do so. With Volpe probably being up within the first couple months of the season, I just don't really see it making too much sense for Peraza to kind of, I mean, maybe like for trade value, if you're hoping that he can maybe rake in the majors in the first month of the season and build up his trade value a little bit more. But I think if you're sticking with him in the organization going down the road, I can't. Then it's like an Andujar situation or like a Florial situation where it's like you're constantly sending guys up and down. Like a guy like Peraza, who's a top prospect, not only in the Yankees organization, but I mean also across the league as well. I feel like that's just, I don't want to say demoralizing, but it's kind of just like diminishing him to a level where it's kind of just like you're on the Scranton shuttle now, rather than just like, yo, because going into the season, it's like if you go in with Peraza as your starting shortstop, he knows and everyone else knows that like no matter what he does, Anthony Volpe is most likely coming up and
I
stealing his
disagree with
job in a
that.
couple months.
I disagree with that. Now, I know what you're saying about Andujar. I think the difference, though, is whatever you do with Peraza, and this goes for every single prospect, you got to make sure they're playing every single day. With
Yeah.
Andujar, when he was getting called up, like at least after 2020, I mean, his playing time was sporadic as hell. If that's the case with Peraza, then they're fools. I still think he does get traded, but I will say I could see a world where him and Volpe, like there's a world I think where they are both playing shortstop and second base come October. Is it likely? No, because I do think Peraza is going to get traded. But if he tears a cover off the ball, before Volpe gets called up, they're not just going to send him back down. So does he move over to second base then, and Volpe takes over at short? That's fine, but IKF can't be really in the picture at all. I think the fact that he is even going to be on the roster is quite laughable. I'm one of the believers they should have non-tendered him. I still think they should maybe try to trade him, and they could by the deadline, but the stopgap, man, like I don't think we're at that point anymore. Like that was last year, if that was reasonable at all, which I don't necessarily think it was. I think Peraza was ready to go way earlier than they brought him up. But dude, IKF cannot. Are you thinking he might start up in day, you're saying?
Yeah. I mean,
Really?
but I want to make it clear that like that's
That'd be a
not what I
shit show.
want.
I know. I
That's
can't
not what I
imagine that's
want.
the case. Total failure
That's
by the
just,
Yankees if that happens.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, bro. It's just, it's a really, really weird situation because the Yankees are crowded with infielders that, I mean, besides Anthony Rizzo at first base and I guess Glaber at second, it's like shortstop and third base. There's so many interchanging pieces there, and there's so many like variables, and there's so many
Mhm.
storylines that, I mean, because you have DJ, Donaldson, Peraza, Volpe, IKF, right? All guys that are going to be battling for two positions, which is crazy to think about. Because then it's also like, yo, if DJ's healthy and DJ's producing, what do you do with Donaldson in that situation, right? Like,
Well,
and
what
let's
we
say,
would do is
but I'm
put him on the
saying,
bench, but that's definitely, yeah.
no, but let's say Donaldson's raking as well.
I'll take that problem though. Another thing about Peraza and IKF, it looked bad one last year when they called him up, admitted IKF was pretty much no longer the starting shortstop with how bad his defense was in the playoffs. Peraza was starting over him. To kind of go back on that and have IKF opening day in the lineup, I think that would be a shit show. Oh, also, talk about consistent playing time. The main thing I don't want them to mess up with Anthony Volpe is once he's called up to be the shortstop, if that's where you see him long term, he
Yeah.
plays shortstop. End of story. No switching him back and forth between short and second, like no nonsense like that they kind of did with Glaber when he was coming up. If he's your shortstop, he's your shortstop. The second he gets called up, you keep him there and kind of run through the highs and lows with him. You know, like let him develop. Like I don't think they would give up on him or anything like that, or just hopefully wouldn't play any games. But once he's up, like that's your guy. Whether that means Peraza goes a second, he gets traded, whatever that may be. But yeah, that's kind of
No,
where
I
I'm at
agree,
with it.
1000%. I think it's going to be very interesting to start the season to see what the Yankees are going to do.
Yeah.
But I will say, no matter who the Yankees starting shortstop is on opening day, I don't think he'll be their starting shortstop by the end of the season. That's just me, though.
I like that take. I'm with you on that.